a record number of new state-level abortion restrictions enacted over the past 2 years, 92 in 2011 and 43 in 2012. I want to bring in Charmaine Yoest, President and CEO of Americans United for Life, and a senior advisor to the 2008 Mike Huckabee presidential campaign. Thanks for joining us. So there's a lot here, and I think I want to get to the state-level stuff eventually, but I want to start with what's going on in Congress this week, where Republicans are pushing the 20-week ban, a ban on abortions after 20 weeks, and we should note it looks like Marsha Blackburn, who's a Republican congresswoman from Tennessee, is sort of going to be taking over the management duties of that bill now. It will no longer be Trent Franks after what we just showed, and it looks like the Republicans also are going to give in on this idea of having a rape exception built into this ban. There's a lot here, but I wonder at a basic level, you have a Democratic Senate, you have a Democratic president. What is the point right now, in your view, even though you are pro-life, but what is the point of advancing something that is going nowhere legislatively?
Well, I think it's really interesting and good that you started by looking at the states and then putting this federal action in the context of how much pro-life legislation is moving at the state level. Americans United for Life, we're the legal architects of the pro-life movement, and over the last 2 years we've been involved in the passage of over 50 pieces of model legislation that working with pro-life legislators at the state level. So what you are very accurately laying out here is this disjunction between what's going on at the state level and what's going on in the federal level. And so part of this is helping to illustrate how out of touch national level policy is with where the American people are. You know, one of the great things about America is the laboratories of democracy, and the people through their representatives at the state level are really speaking, and their frustration is coming out in the state legislature.
So you're saying the model of public opinion, saying the American people want this, is because the American people elected Republicans. Doesn't that get to the point we were making about the different electorates that turned out? Because the elected officials who are doing these things at the state level were elected by the 2010 electorate, which, it's how politics works. Whoever shows up gets the vote, and whoever wins makes the decisions. But is that really representative of where everybody in this country is when it's a relatively narrow slice of the electorate that turned out?
Well, you know, I think I really did find your earlier conversation very interesting, because I think there's been so much misinterpretation of the November elections and where the American people are. Because one of the untold stories from November is that we actually, as a pro-life movement, really picked up strength in state legislatures across the country. It was not a loss necessarily for the pro-life movement. Obviously, it was kind of heartbreaking to see the most pro-abortion president we've ever had come back into the White House. But that's also relevant as well, because what I would argue to you, Steve, and ladies, is that this president has really overreached on the abortion issue. His positions are so radical and so aggressively pro-abortion that he's alienating large swaths of the American public.
But he's not alienating anyone he hasn't already alienated. I think that's an important point. And I also want to point out that at the state level, some interesting things happened, which is that, yes, you're right, there were gains at the state level for pro-life candidates. But in those states that had the strongest pro-life representation and the most extreme pro-life bills come forward, like in Pennsylvania, that's where you saw the female vote really turn out for Obama. I mean, it was where, when you're talking about something, like life, it's hard to say overreach, because if you believe that abortion is wrong, you are not overreaching when you do anything to stop it. So I want to respect that. I don't want to call what these legislatures are doing necessarily overreach. They're doing something inconsistent with their values. However, when women in those states see that, they do tend to react, and it's in those states where women turned out for Obama in bigger numbers than they did in other states.
Well, that's a really, and I like your differentiation about what is overreaching and what is not. And it's hard because you just listed off a huge list of pro-life legislation that's moving forward. And I think one of the questions that the pro-life movement is putting out there that we never ever get an answer from big abortion and the abortion lobby is there any restriction on abortion that we can agree on? For example, we were involved in helping to pass the first ever ban on sex selection abortion and abortion for genetic abnormalities in North Dakota. And you would not believe the firestorm that was kicked up. And I just want to look at that and say, you know what, if the abortion lobby cannot come alongside and say that it is okay to pass a ban on aborting a little baby because she's a girl, then they're really out of touch with where the American people are. So, of course, you can come up with examples of where there was a bill that did not gather a whole lot of support. But what I would argue to you is that by saying that there is not a single piece of legislation.
But there's a lot more. I want to pick this point up and say there's a lot more that happened in North Dakota than just that bill. I want to pick up on that after this.
Don't miss a step, nothing's missed with a tenor twist. Don't miss a beat, nothing's missed with a tenor twist.
Discover fearless protection for the unexpected leak. Designed to fit your lifestyle. Tenna's stylish, active, and anywhere. Stylish is form-fitting. Active moves with you. And anywhere gives all-day comfort. The Tenna-proven personal care system is so absorbent, even when you twist, not a drop escapes. For a free sample, call 1-877-GET-TENNA.
Nothing's missed with tenor twist.
We make meeting times, lunch times, and conference times. But what we'd rather be making are tea times. Tea times are the official start of what we love to do. The time for shots we'd rather forget, and the ones we'll talk about forever. In Michigan, long days, relaxing weather, and more than 800 pristine